Okay, fantastic. So welcome everybody to this presentation of winterizing your TRUVAC vacuum excavator. My name is Don Pollard. I'm the Regional Operations Director for Joe Johnson West and Maritimes. I'm here moderating for this event today. With us presenting will be Jerry Smith and Matt Abbott out of our TRUVAC division. They are on site and will be factory, and after the initial presentation slideshow, we will head out and do a walk around the truck and show you some live information as well. So hang tight through the first part of the presentation till we get to that. At the end of the session, there will be an opportunity for you to ask questions or provide feedback on how the presentation went. So we are grateful for anybody who can give us some feedback, or if you have any questions, we're happy to answer that. And then lastly, just some housekeeping stuff. Everybody will be muted. However, at the bottom of your screen, you should see a couple buttons. One of them is a Q&A where you can put in questions and answers that we will read out and respond to the group. There's a chat button that you can click as well. If you're having problems or can't hear us or something, feel free to utilize that one if needed. And that is about it, I think. We'll get started with the presentation here. I'll hand it off to Jerry next.
Okay, good morning, everybody. My name is Jerry Smith. I'm just one of the technical trainers here at Vactor. I'll be going through a few slides here that walks you through doing the winterization on your TRUVAC. And then I'll hand it off to Matt Abbott, which is the other technical trainer here at Vactor. And he'll actually do the winterization on a truck. Okay, get this going here. Okay, there's myself. Again, my name is Jerry Smith. And then Matt, he's going to be down at the truck. Okay, a couple of notes before we get started, just to cover a few things here. You do not want to operate the water pump without water. Okay, there's going to be a note that comes up a little bit later in this about this, but yeah, normally don't run the water pump without water. The water system can be damaged by freezing. So ultimately that's what this is about. We don't want water left on the truck to freeze. Things freeze, breaks things. So we want to get the water off that truck. Never operate the water pump if the system's frozen. Okay, again, that's what we're doing this for, so we can get the water off the truck, so things don't freeze and break. Okay, the controls on your truck here on this side of the screen is the paradigm. Again, you can see the buttons for the water pump controls here. The full size and the Prodigy, you've got a control panel like this. It's got the same 4 buttons here that the paradigm does. So turn the water pump on and off with those and control the water pump. The water system components. This over here on the left bottom of that screen is the paradigm. You can see the water pump. There's the drain valves, unloader, relief valve, the pressure gauge. There's a Weiss strainer. The paradigm does not have a charge pump. Here on the right is the for the full size and the Prodigy. We got a 10-gallon, same components, relief valve, unloader. The drain valves are right there. Charge pump. Okay. Again, that's a 10-gallon. Then the upper is a 20-gallon. Same components. Things are located pretty much the same place. Okay, draining the tank and the water system. Depending on what drain you have, open the T-handle. This will be underneath the fender on the driver's side of the truck. Pull that open. That'll drain the water out of the tank. You may have a valve like this on your truck. That'll be on the passenger side, right there close to the controls on it. So you could have either or there. Allow the water to drain. When the tank is empty, take this valve and open and close it a few times because there's some water that normally accumulates there. Open and close that quickly a few times. That dissipates that water. This is the paradigm. The water tank sits a little higher on those. This is the T handle to open up that drain valve. The water pump we talked about already. There's your drain valves on those. So just a quick view of the differences on the paradigm. Next step in draining the water, unwind all the hose and set the ball valves on to allow the water to drain out of the hose. Open the drain valves for the cat pump and charge pump. Okay, you got the two with the cat pump, then a couple on the charge pump. So open those up to let that drain. There's an isolation valve, this red handle here. You want to have that open. Okay, so with it open, the little tabs are in line with the hose. If it's closed, it's going to be 90 degrees of the flow of the line. So open that up. You might be able to see that a little better on that picture too. Allow the water to drain from the cat pump and charge pump and boiler if you have it. Remove the white strainer. At that point, this is where you want to turn the water pump on, but no more than 10 seconds. You want to keep that to a minimum. You don't want to damage that pump. So turn that pump on for about 10 seconds, turn it off. That just expels the water from the water pump. Slowly rewind the hose onto the hose reel. That helps that water drain out of that hose. And then disengage the hydraulics and your drain. Okay. Now winterizing, take it a little step further. We're going to cover that now. There is a decal in the water cabinet that will help guide you through that too if you forget what we cover in this meeting here. So just a resource for you to find that decal, and you can follow the steps there also. Okay, for the air purge, you're going to have a panel like this in that water cabinet. Okay, you got two valves. You open up the one valve and it'll charge up the air. The other one will open up the valve and the air will be directed out into the water system. So the air purge, drain the water from the water tanks. Showed you that earlier. The truck needs to be running because we're using chassis air to push that water out. And we need to engage the hydraulics. Okay. With the truck running, open the air purge fill reservoir valve. This one here. Okay, open that. It'll charge up the air in the air tank. Allow that to charge about 90 psi. Okay. Close the charge pump isolation valve, that red handle that's up in this area here. Then with the high pressure handgun hose unwound from the reel again, open up the valve for that. Then open the purge system valve, and that'll direct air into that water system and start pushing water out from that hose. Okay. At the charge pump, there's these two valves here. Open those valves and let that start draining. Okay. Then at the cat pump, open up the drain valves one at a time to push the water out of the cat pump. Then turn on that cat pump again for 10 seconds, no more than 10 seconds. That'll help push that water out of that water pump. Okay. Anytime in this process that pressure drops to 15, close the purge system valve, let that air pressure build back up to 90. Okay. With the high pressure handgun valve still open, the water will be pushed out of the water heater if you've got that on your truck and out through the handgun hose. Okay. If your truck is equipped with the rear handgun hose reel, you'll have to open up that valve for that to push the water out of that airline also, or the water line. Okay. After all the water has been pushed out with the chassis air, close the fill reservoir and then the purge system valve. Slowly rewind all the hose onto the hose reel. Open the 2 charge part drain valves if you haven't done that already. Open all ball valves on the pump, all the drain valves. Open the charge pump isolation valve, that red valve that we closed earlier. Disengage the hydraulics, and you're ready to go. From here, I'll hand that off to Matt so we can just see it actually performed on a truck. So take it away, Matt.
I'm actually winterizing this unit. So as the camera gets closer, don't mind my face. That's what I was given. So. All right, well, we're going to start off at the water tank. The system, the theory is the same from the full-size truck, which we have in front of us, to the Paradigm. We're going to get our water out, the rainwater, then we'll get our water out of the water pump, and then we'll expel all the water out of our hoses as well. So starting at our water tank, this is where we filled it. I want to make sure that we get our wide strainer, the strainer out of here, the cap off, make sure it's empty. This is a T-handle. However, this is the supply T-handle. This supplies water to the water cabinet itself. Okay? So this is not the drain T-handle. Just wanted to point that out. This truck is equipped with a remote drain right here. So it's got a big gate valve on it. What we'll do, we'll take the cap off, get the water out, and I'm going to show you guys one little secret drain on this truck as well. Remove the cap. This remote line is heated on this truck. You can see all the insulation that's wrapping around the valve. That is so we can run coolant lines to keep all of this from freezing. So all of that is insulated to keep the water from freezing up when it's so far away from the tank. So we're going to be draining the water off, most of it through that valve right there. And once the majority of this stops, I'm going to show you guys another little expansion plug. While that's running, let me introduce you guys to a few components in the water cabinet. Open up our doors. This truck is equipped with one high pressure hose reel. So we won't have the selector valves that Jerry had in the picture to select the front or rear. We only have the one. Kind of a point that I like to make for everybody that's a little new to the truck is our water pressure from the pump always goes through the heater and comes back down. And then if we had a selection of a front and rear, we would have the valve. This truck only has the one. So this is our only hose reel on the truck. Here's our positions. Our fill reservoir is on. So I am charging the air pressure right now. And that is what the chassis air pressure is at the moment. And this is our on and off for our air purge. You can see that connection back here. If you want to get it up close inside here, Nick. So this is where that air line goes, and this is in the water supply. This is what we refer to as the isolation valve. It should always stay in the open position unless you're air purging. And at that time is the only time that we want to close it. When we're done with our air purging, we want to make sure that that's open. That can really catch you. So that's a little bit of a user tidbit for you to keep that open unless you're air purging. All right, so one thing I do want to say about this little hidden expansion plug, which we're about ready to do, this tank is actually 2 halves put together. So what happens is the drain is on one side, and on the other side we have an expansion plug. And so we're going to get in position in here, and I'm going to get you guys a good view of it, and I'll show you guys this plug. So we're on the passenger side of the truck, and this happens to be a tri-drive or a tridem. right underneath the fender here, you can see my hand, and you can see this expansion plug. I've been told by a number of guys they really wish they would have known about this. X number of scenarios have played out where they really wish they could have had another drain on their truck. Another reason is, like I said, it's two halves of a tank put together, and you only get to drain one half of the tank. It's about maybe 30 or 40 gallons of water sitting here. But as you transport, you will definitely have moving water that will make its way into your water supply, into your water cabinet. So if you've found yourself getting extra water in and can't figure out how after you drain your tank, this expansion plug is probably going to be your new best friend. So we'll take that out and we'll set it in the cabinet. That's probably also a good thing to reinstall when you're filling your truck, because yeah, it will drain it. So. All right, so we're kind of getting to the end of our draining of the water system. Just a little bit of trickles left here and there. So while that's going, we're going to start moving our way from our water tank on down. So here's your supply to your water cabinet. We'll leave that open just in case there is any water left, anything anywhere in here. It'll make its way down the supply into our water cabinet. It's going to come across our water cabinet, and then the very first thing we come to, the first component, is right here. This is our Y strainer. The little filter catches all the debris. We're going to open the drain here valve. We're going to get a stream of water. This empties out the supply between the water tank and the water cabinet. So once that's all drained, we can then take our Y strainer out and check it. I'm going to cheat a little bit. I know this truck is brand new and filled from a hydrant that we use all the time. So our water supply is very clean. So there's nothing that I can show you there other than unscrew this and it comes out. So that's for you guys to do. Into the water supply then goes into the charge pump. So we're going to drain out the charge pump now. We have a valve at the top, petcock at the top here, drain valve, and then we have a quarter turn down here. You can just kind of see the decal a little bit. Just a little quarter turn valve, and that will drain out your charge pump. Probably grab a little bit of the line that's the output of the charge pump. So as that's draining, we're going to keep moving on. So from the charge pump, it goes into the cat pump from there. We have two different drains on the cat pump. This is the major drain, which drains out the head of the pump and the triplex pistons. And then up here, this is the unloader valve. And when your system is reached its pressure, whatever you have it set to, if we're using dig right or if we're using a manual mode, this is where the water gets returned to the water supply. So we can drain that out as well. So there's all of your drains for your system. The only other one that's left is really right here, and this is the bypass valve for the hose reel. Basically, it would just empty the water out between the heater and the hose reel. All right, looks like we're just about out of water here. So, like Jerry said before, he kind of broke it up. That PowerPoint was written so that you can do a winterizing with and without air purge. Right now, this doesn't exist, okay? So we're just going to do without air purge. Since we are going to follow with an air purge, I'm not going to unwind all the way. But really all you're doing is you're unwinding it to get the high spot of that hose reel out of the equation, and all the hose will be laid out on the floor. And we're just going to turn the pump on. The very first slide that Jerry showed everybody was do not run the water pump without water. I just drained all the water. This is the only time I give you permission to turn this pump on for 10 seconds. It's a very intentional note that we say don't do it, but then I tell you to do it, and this is why. This is it right here. You will damage your water pump. On our control panel, whether it is a full-size Prodigy or a Paradigm, you have the very similar keypad with the pump control. I would suggest that we put it in one of the 3 dig right settings. If you go into the very first setting, it's red, that's the manual mode. What happens is the pump turns very slow. It actually won't push much water out. So we're going to turn the pump on. Everything's gonna fire up. The truck's gonna get going. You can see the water coming out down here. That is out of the bypass valve. Okay. So if that valve's open, that's all we're gonna get. It's gonna come out of there. Anybody ever done a siphon? I know somebody's dealing right now. From siphoning a gas tank to siphoning a pool cover off. Everybody's siphoned. What we did is we started a siphon. So once it comes out, it's gonna keep coming out. So we close that, and we could then turn the pump on again and push water out of the hose. And that would be air purging without, that would be winterizing without an air purge. But the whole idea is you winterize these trucks, you have air purge, and I want to show you just how much better this will work with an air purge. So, come on back to the cabinet. I'm going to show you the few things that we need to do to air purge. You want to come back around over this way, Nick? All right, the very first thing we have to do is the one and only time we're going to close the isolation valve is air purge. We close it. Now we have our purge system full. We can turn it on. What we're going to get is it coming out of every one of our drains. I don't even have to turn it on very high. A few psi of air is going to start pushing on this water. And as soon as it has cleared the pump, that one goes real easy. And as soon as it pushes out all the water, it's going to start consuming a lot of air. Right now, we have a bunch of water. All of that water was up in the heater. We have some coming out of our hose as well. That's only a little bit of air pressure that's causing all of that. So where this air starts going into the system at is up here, and it pushes the water out from the charge pump through the cat pump, to the heater, and then eventually out the hoses. We can close that valve. So what we're doing is we're pushing the vast majority of the water out with the air right now. This is how I prefer to do this, is I get the water mostly out, and then I'm just going to turn the pump on for a few seconds to make sure that the pump has cycled and that the water leaves the fingers in the pump. So we still have our purge system on. Once again, I like to finish it off by just opening, make sure the charge pump is empty. Charge pump is empty, we have clear air coming out. I can go ahead and close it. The bypass valve is still closed, so we are forcing all of the air and water out of our high pressure hose right now. If we had a second operator station, so a rear hose control, we would close the front one and then open the rear, and then we would do the exact same process by pushing the water out of the rear operator station. That's the gist of it. I can tell you that it's going to take a little while for this to push out clean air. There's a lot of plumbing and piping through here that is going to pull a handful of water. For the most part, it's just a mist now, but you kind of need to do this on and off a couple times just to get the water out of there. It would be a good time to introduce a little bit of air freeze and glycol into the system to further prevent it. If you have a significant need to ensure that there's definitely not going to be a freeze issue, a little glycol will go a long way. This truck is not set up for it, so I can't show you that part. But this is winterizing with air freeze. Let it build up a little bit, and then I'll open it one more time. As you can see, I shut the air off, and there's still enough to push the water out. Wind it back up. You set it back in the truck. Okay, so we put everything out with air. We can go ahead and open our drain valves back up. Open all of them. And that's how we're going to transport the truck, bypass, once again, isolation valve needs to be opened. Our air purge operation is over. Our drain valve on our water supply, all of our valves are open. If there's any water sitting in a corner or a pocket somewhere while we're transporting the to or from, it should work its way to one of these drains and then exit the system. Obviously, we have a heated cabinet. If you close the cabinet, keep the doors closed. Use the doggy door here for the hose. You'll then ensure that your pump stays warm. Warm pump is a happy pump. No ice. That's our enemy right now. So, with all of that, that pretty much concludes winterizing with air purge. And I guess I'll give it back to Don. And there you go. Hopefully, everybody has a good winter.
Fantastic. Thank you, sir. So as we wrap up the presentation here, there should be a slide that pops up on your screen here that will give you some information on our support that we have available out of JJE. So thank you again to Jerry and Matt for doing the presentation here. Happy to have you do such a fantastic job. Anybody who has any questions are welcome to put your hand up on the bottom button there or hit the Q&A. Just wanted to mention as well that this session will be made available after the fact, recorded. So if you did miss it, parts of it, or you want somebody else to see this presentation, keep tuned. We will be able to provide you some information on that. So the training team here up on the screen, we have 3 folks at JJE. We have Harvey Morgan, training and demonstration specialist, Neil Scott, who's our customer and technical support specialist. And then in my area of the business for Western Maritimes, I have Chris Litkowicz, who's a training and support specialist. So if you do have any questions, you can definitely reach out to those folks. So I do have one question here from an attendee, which I will hand off to Jerry or Matt to answer. Question is, I have a question about the operation of the water pump with no water. What is it that is different with the Vactor and the Elgin water systems that allows them to be ran without waters for short periods of time versus TRUVAC, which can't be run more than 10 seconds?
The speed of the water pump is a lot slower. The cylinders are smooth, so there's no heat buildup. The cat pumps has little plungers in there. They're plastic, so they need that water for lubrication. So that'll get destroyed a lot quicker. I don't know if Matt might have more of an answer there.
Matt, I can't hear you if you are saying something.
Do you concur?
Okay. There we go. we are having a push the button issue. Yes, I'm going to duplicate what Jerry said. The biggest thing is the pump. Actually, that is the thing, the pump. The Vactor 2100 has a rotor pump. It moves at slow speed when it cycles. This cat pump is moving at significantly higher RPM. There's 3 pistons in there moving significantly faster, and that's the big reason. Without water in here to lubricate, it will burn up the seals and actually get hot, and then if water does hit in there, it will actually crack cylinders and pistons, all sorts of different things can happen. But basically, this pump don't heat without water. That's a lubrication.
All right, fantastic. Thank you, Matt and Jerry. Anybody else have any questions that they'd like to pop up or any feedback? We'll stay on the line here for a couple minutes and then end the call. Okay.
Don, it's Victoria. We did have one attendee with their hand up. I'm going to allow them to ask their question live, if that's okay. Oh,
Okay,
here it
sure.
is. You know what? It's actually in the chat function.
Okay, I don't see that.
So under chat, the question is in regards to the hours for customer support. So what are your hours for customer support? That's the question.
Okay, hours for customer support. Most of our locations are open during the day, 7 a.m. through to 5. It varies a little bit by locations, but generally we have on-call available after hours for parts and for service as well. So you can call our 1-800 number, JJE. That'll direct you to our response. But as well, most of the people, and I know I can speak for my trainer, Chris Litkowicz, he does make himself available beyond business hours as well. So you can pretty much reach out to anybody on the sales side, operations, or via our after-hours service if you do need support. And thank you. I see Victoria has posted that 1-800 number. Okay, we'll hang on for another minute here in case there's any other questions that come up in the chat or Q&A. While we're waiting, I'll just start to wrap up. Thank everybody for their time. Again, I really appreciate the ability to have you assist from the factory side during that. And thank you everybody that's joined the call as a participant. It's great to get the opportunity to connect with you this way. And if you do have any parts or service needs as well, of course, we are there to provide that support to you. On that note, I will wrap it up and wish you a safe and fantastic rest of your week. Take care.